Welcome into this at-home edition of Seattle Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. Coming up on today's show, we are going to react to Fox Sports Radio's Colin Cowherd's latest comments suggesting that the Seattle Seahawks need to make a trade for Minnesota Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy. We'll let you know what he had to say, share our thoughts and more coming up in just a matter of moments. Before we do that, folks, want to make sure that you are subscribed to Seahawks Today as we bring you up-to-the-minute information on your favorite team, from our daily news and rumors to our live shows we do each and every week, our watch parties on game day, including tomorrow, right here on the channel. If you are a diehard Seahawks fan, this is the channel for you. And as the offseason officially begins tomorrow, we are really going to ramp up the offseason coverage here on the channel. So just because the season may be over for the Hawks doesn't mean we're going anywhere, folks. Subscribe now for free. Be a friend. Tell a friend, as Pat McAfee would say. Let's get at least 50 subs off today's video. Subscribe now, and you'll be glad you did. Fox Sports' Colin Cowherd is suggesting that the Seahawks make a trade for J.J. McCarthy. And this comes on the heels of a report from ESPN's Adam Schefter earlier in the week that the Vikings are open to shopping J.J. McCarthy after a phenomenal season from Sam Darnold this season, where the Vikings are in a position they don't want to get rid of Darnold. And you can't blame them with the numbers he's put up, with the way that he's performed in games all year, and he's still only 28 years old. They have potentially found their franchise quarterback, and they're going to pay him a lot of money. And so with that, the Vikings find themselves in a position here where they are actually lacking a lot of draft picks for next year. And realistically speaking, in the Vikings circumstance, what they're looking at is it would be very tough for them to pay J.J. McCarthy and then not have draft capital, or pay Sam Darnold rather, and not have draft capital if they want to build around Sam Darnold and be a contending team and get talent there. So that leaves the Vikings potentially looking to move on from J.J. McCarthy, basically choosing Darnold over McCarthy at this point here. And so then Cowherd brings up the idea of Seattle and giving up a second and a fourth, maybe even a fifth, to make the deal happen. Seattle gets a young franchise quarterback, and Minnesota gets the draft picks they're looking for, and everybody's happy. He said if he was John Schneider and if he was the Seattle Seahawks, that he would do this move tomorrow, is what Cowherd said. So with that, let's react to it now with our thoughts on this. I got to tell you, I'm very intrigued by the idea of bringing in J.J. McCarthy. And Cowherd, he kind of pointed to that he doesn't believe that Geno's not going to be around much longer in Seattle. What I'm of the belief of, folks, is that I have said for a long time that the best way to go about this, when it comes to eventually replacing Geno Smith, because that day is going to come. Geno's 34 years old. We knew that he was a bridge quarterback from the moment he took over from Russell Wilson. He was never supposed to be the long-term answer. And we appreciate what Geno's done over these last few years, but that's never the long-haul solution for Seattle here. So with that said, what is the perfect plan of action? Well, with J.J. coming off that meniscus injury that's kept him out all season at this point, I would say that this next season for him is his real rookie season, when he actually gets snaps, when he actually gets reps. So let's start there. Let's start with 2025 as J.J. McCarthy's real rookie season, okay? So with that in mind, think about this. I have said for a long time, the best way to have a quarterback be ready in the National Football League is to sit behind a veteran for a year, let them learn how you operate and do things, and then take over and be that starter the next year or the year after, whatever it may be. It's a tried and true formula that has been the most successful over the years with different organizations. You can look at Tom Brady behind Drew Bledsoe, Patrick Mahomes behind Alex Smith, Aaron Rodgers behind Brett Favre, Jordan Love behind Aaron Rodgers, Brock Purdy behind Jimmy Garoppolo. The list goes on and on and on and on again. That's been the best recipe for success. So, in this scenario, we could look at a world here where you bring Geno back on his current contract with the 1 year remaining, or for all intents and purposes, you can give him an extension for another year and maybe a year with a team option, whatever it may be. But the plan be put in place, the wheels in motion, that you already have his replacement ready to go. That whether it's when you're ready to move on from Geno, or if he stumbles, if there's an injury or whatever it may be, J.J. is ready to take over. And here's another point I'll bring up. John Schneider is a big fan of J.J. McCarthy, and Mike Macdonald knows J.J. McCarthy very well on top of that. Now, I'll say this. Cowherd's idea of a second and a fourth and a fifth, I'll do that in a heartbeat. Without having to give up a first-round pick for a top 10 quarterback last year, J.J. McCarthy, I think, is better than any quarterback in this year's draft class. If we're going to be frank, I think he's better than Shedeur and Cam Ward and everybody like that. And Seattle's not going to be in position to take a top quarterback where they pick in this year's draft. I believe that there's only two quarterbacks worth taking in the first round this year, that being Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. And once they're gone, you don't need to use a first-round pick on a quarterback because none of them have first-round grades in my projections. So, more on this in just a moment, but let's ask you guys, what do you think of what Cowherd's saying here? Why for yes, in for no? Would you trade for McCarthy or not? Weigh in, let us know what you think. Today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. Choose two or more players on any given category. Get the choice of more or less, whether you're talking fantasy points in football, rebounds in basketball, goals in hockey, all sorts of different categories to choose from. And on Prize Picks right now, you can get up to 1,000 times your money. Yes, you heard that right. And you can get $50 to play for free when you play $5. You don't even have to win to get the money. Just go to prizepicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, I've had a lot of success this season. Tomorrow, I got to go with more on Geno. I got to go with more on JSN. And then elsewhere around pro football, you know what? I'll throw in another one here for you. Whatever Bo Nix's number is, give me the less on Bo Nix. We'll make that happen. Play along with me, prizepicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Okay, so in the pre-draft process last year, John Schneider was a big fan of J.J. McCarthy, had some incredible meetings with him. He was a big fan of Bo Nix, and it was known that Seattle, if they would have been in position, they would have loved to draft one of those guys. But obviously none of them were available when Seattle picked at 16th overall. So as much as they like J.J., they just weren't in a spot to bring him in. Now, John is in position to get that guy that he wants. And Mike Macdonald was at Michigan as defensive coordinator when J.J. McCarthy was the quarterback a couple of years ago. And he's been a big fan of J.J. McCarthy as well. And he knows him pretty well. Even though he was on the opposite side of the ball, he saw him every day in practice. So that's somebody he's familiar with as well. To me, that seems like a good marriage. A second, fourth, and fifth, I think J.J. is going to cost more than what Colin says. But if it is a second, fourth, and fifth, I'll take that every day. And I got a young quarterback that is, I think, got tremendous talent. He's got a good arm. He's very accurate. He's very mobile as well. And he's been a winner. This guy won a national championship at Michigan. He's played in a pro-style offense there under Jim Harbaugh. To me, it makes a ton of sense if you could potentially pull this off. And you can still keep Geno around for the time being as well, as far as that goes. Here's another point I'll make. With Seattle picking somewhere in the 15 to 18 range, depending on how tomorrow turns out, more than likely 18th, you're just not going to have those quarterbacks there. With Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders gone, those are the only guys we're taking in the first round. And you still get to keep your first round pick based on Colin's trade idea, if that were to work. That's a win-win. And if JJ's not the guy, if it doesn't work out, what did it cost you? A second, fourth, and fifth? I mean, it wasn't the Trey Lance situation with San Francisco. I mean, that cost them 3 first-round picks. To me, this is a risk worth taking. It's a cheap rookie contract. We know Seattle has some big salary cap question marks down the road as well. I would be a big fan of making this deal. Let's go over some numbers on J.J. McCarthy real quick, too. His college career, 3 seasons as the starter for the Michigan Wolverines. And you look at what he did in 2021. He was battling with Cade McNamara back and forth, ultimately took that job for him full-time in 2022. 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 516 yards as a freshman. Sophomore year, 22 touchdowns, 5 picks, 64.6% completion percentage. And then 2023, 22 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 72.3% completion percentage, nearly 3,000 yards passing. And one point I'll make about J.J. McCarthy. The big knock on J.J. last draft, in this cycle was he didn't put up just gaudy numbers. He never had to go out there and go crazy with the football. He didn't have to throw 40 and 50 times a game. Michigan didn't ask him to do that because they had the best run game in the country last season in college football. But what I would say to you, for the doubters on the J.J. McCarthy camp, I'm a big college football fan. I'm the biggest college football fan I know. I watch more than anyone else I know in my entire life. And I watched a lot of Michigan football this year, despite how bad they were. Tell me about the quarterback play at Michigan this year after J.J. McCarthy left. How'd that go? You want to know how good J.J. McCarthy was? Look at Michigan football this year at the quarterback position. That should tell you everything right there. So for anyone out there that is skeptical because he didn't put up gaudy numbers, he won. He was very accurate. He did everything he was asked to do. That'll work for me. One more thing. Let me ask you guys before we wrap up here real quick. What about Geno? Is he going to get that extension here in the coming weeks? Weigh in. Let me know. Type E for extend, D for don't. Appreciate you guys joining us. Subscribe now to Seattle Seahawks Today. Make sure and join us for our watch party tomorrow, our final one of the season, Seahawks and Rams. We'll see you then right here on Seahawks Today.